I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. This is a special open call meeting. And I have to tell all of you, first off, thank you very much for coming. There's a lot going on, and all of you that are here must know that. The administration has been working to try to develop the right information that we can submit to the School Budget Review Committee, and that's coming up December 11th, I believe, but the documents have to be in by tomorrow. This meeting was prepared quickly, and we have certain laws and regulations that we have to live by. One of them is that we have to post a meeting 24 hours in advance. And so for us to have this meeting, we had to prepare it and announce it by yesterday. One of the mistakes that I made was that I indicated this as a discussion topic, and I intended it to be an action item. So I've posted another meeting for tomorrow at 3:45. And in that meeting, I intend to ask for a vote. In tonight's meeting, I intend to ask for consensus from the board. The School Budget Review Committee is looking for a degree of confidence that they can have in our district that we are seriously going to address the financial issues that they're asking us to look at. And the administration tonight will be making that case, and then the board will be making comments and discussing that. However, one of the things that I did not post on the agenda is a section for open forum. And I wanted to note to all of you that we are going to have an open forum tonight, and it will be before the discussion. Right now I have 2 open forum requests. And I wanted to give proper time for all of you. Our board secretary is over there with additional open forum requests. If any of you would like to hold your hand up, she'll get the request to you. I want to make sure that everybody has an appropriate opportunity to speak if you'd like to speak. I'm not going to get into a lot of the normal nomenclature that we get into in a regular meeting. We're going to get right down to business here quickly, but I want to make sure that everybody understands kind of what's happening. So tonight will be a discussion. I will ask for a consensus at the end of the discussion. All of you will have an opportunity to speak if you'd like, and I will be generous with respect to especially time. If it comes up later and you say, gee, I just thought about that, we do ask that you fill out the request though, so that we have a document documenting who you are and your address. And with that, so there are only about 2 items on tonight's agenda. One is I'm going to ask for open forum, and then I'm going to get into a discussion on the budget that the administration will be presenting. And they will explain some of the fine issues there. I do want to note also that you see 2 empty chairs here. We have Director Mayfield and Director Gosa are participating by phone. And I do want to make sure, Director Mayfield, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. And Director Gosa, you're there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. And for all of you out there, sometimes there are delays because the board members will oftentimes put themselves on mute so that we can all hear pretty well what's going on. And certainly, those board members that are participating by phone have legitimate reasons for not being here. And, but they are dedicated to the district and to the board, and they are participating in whatever way they can. So with that, I know it's a little bit different for all of us, including the board. The board has just found out about some of these issues as recently as maybe an hour ago, or 2 hours, whenever we set the meeting for tomorrow as well. So,
We ran out of two-year budget, so I'm going to go make copies so if you could let people know.
okay, all right, thank you. Our board secretary just gave me some more open forum requests. She said that she ran out of the copies of the two-year budget, and so she's going to go make some additional copies. And I would imagine that won't take more than about 2 minutes. And I'd like all of you to have the information before we get started. So feel free to have light discussion, go to the restroom, whatever. I'm not going to call a recess, but I'm not going to start the meeting until she gets back and gives you all that information. All right, thank you very much, and I appreciate all of your attendance and patience. We have several board or requests for open forum, and I haven't counted them, but there are several. And as I mentioned earlier, if something occurs to you and you want to participate in the open forum, go ahead and get a board request. I'm going to allow those board requests up until the time that the open forum is ended and we start the regular discussion. This is a really important issue, and although I'm not going to say that there's unlimited time, I'm going to try to be generous with the time. I would ask that you be respectful of all of our time and try to be within 3 minutes or so. If it starts to go beyond 3 minutes, I'll ask you to try to wrap it up. And I do have one request that was for 5 minutes, and I'm going to allow the 5 minutes. Other than that, I would gauge that we have probably an additional 8. So it's going to be a little bit of a time here. I'm going to read off everybody's name here, and if you would come in this order, come up to the microphone, give us your name and address so that we have it for the record, and then go ahead and speak. And we will start with Lori Yankee, Ann McGlynn, Tyler Weger, and I apologize if I mispronounced your names, Carrie Dugan, Genevieve Rafferty, Rodney Blackwell, and Erlene Anderson. So I'll remind you as we get through, but let's go ahead and get started with Lori Yankee.
Good, there we go. Good evening, my name's Lori Yankee. I live at 2315 Hillendale Road here in Davenport. I have 4 children, 4 daughters. One graduated about a year ago and the other 3 remain in Davenport schools. I'm coming to you tonight as a parent who also attended the November 14th meeting in front of the state school board. When I went up there, the first thing we greeted them with, which I'm sure surprised them, was that we asked them to impeach you all and to have the state, with their oversight, take over the school district. I'm standing here tonight saying that my opinion has not changed. Each and every single one of you have agreed to break the law and follow through on this. And while our former superintendent was allowed to leave and receive our severance package, we are now left as a district holding the bag. Each and every single one of you voted yes to this. Some of you showed up in t-shirts. Some of you ran for underneath this idea and then did not rally the community to take on the state and change the law. And yes, it is a law problem, but it was not ours to tackle and use our school district, our students, our teachers. It was not ours to use as a political ploy, because they are the ones that will suffer. So I'm asking all of you again tonight to step down, because you are not worthy to lead our school district. This is ridiculous that we have come to this point. You all ought to be embarrassed. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Next is Ann McGlynn.
Ann McGlynn, 3009 Grand Avenue, Davenport. I was not planning to talk tonight, but here I am. I'm really upset and angry. I'm going to read a little bit about what I posted last night on Facebook, and I hope you'll give me a little bit of grace. The government leaders, in quotes, of Iowa have starved the Davenport Community School District for decades, allowing them to spend $175 less per student than other school districts in the state, to the tune of approximately $2.5 million a year, give or take, since around 1970. That, for the record, is a lot of money. Nevertheless, the people of the district work their tail ends off to serve one of the most beautifully diverse student bodies in the state of Iowa, including students who come from excruciatingly difficult circumstances, oftentimes because of systemic marginalization by our society. The district is looked down upon instead of celebrated and cherished for trying its collective level best to grow and encourage all kids. People very unfortunately choose other districts and the resource gap widens. The now former superintendent puts his career on the line to try to convince the state of the error of its funding ways. The state threatens to take his superintendent's license in a lengthy punishment process, but ends up giving him a slap on the wrist. He sees the writing on the wall and steps away. The state legislature throws us a pittance of reducing the disparity to $170 less per student last session for one whole year. Gee whiz, thanks for that. Then the governor comes to town to celebrate, or is it to rub our faces in the fact that our kids are still worth less than other kids in the state? The state then says the district is inadequately serving students of color and special education students, which there's validity to, and forces the review of the entire school district, which the district welcomes, at least from my perception, and uses as an opportunity to get better, even though it is resulting in changes that are overwhelming the system and could actually be harming kids. Now the state tells us the district must cut $13 million by the end of next school year. I have two sons who are in the Davenport schools. Nick's at Central, Nate's at Sedlow. They're thriving, and I think my lucky stars every single day that they have the chance to be part of the Davenport schools. I also work with 10 refugee kids who attend Davenport schools. I came from one of their conferences just a few minutes ago. It's why I was late. In particular, the past 2 weeks, the staff of the school district has bent over backwards to ensure as seamless of a transition as humanly possible for 4 of those beautiful and bright kids who have some difficult hills to climb. Tonight I got a phone call from a principal asking if she can get me a volunteer to help hook up their washer and dryer. Hey, state of Iowa, are you done with the torture yet? For years, you've been the primary reason for funding inequity for the Davenport Community School District. Now you say the district is treating its students inequitably and must fix the problem while cutting the living hell out of our budget. Is there anyone out there in state government with a shred of mercy?
Thank you, Ann. Next is Tyler Weger.
Hi, is this on? Okay. Tyler Weger, 3328 East Kimberly Road, Davenport.
Are you close enough that we can all hear you? Can you hear her back?
Can
in
you
the
hear
back?
me now?
Okay, all right. Thank you, Tyler.
All right. And I work at SMART, and she said she just came from conferences. All of the intermediate schools are at conferences tonight, and I really feel like a lot of intermediate teachers would be here to hear you guys discuss if they could be. In addition, the vote tomorrow is at 3:45. We will still be in 7th period. Our bell doesn't ring until 4 o'clock. We would really like to be here so that you can see us while you vote on our jobs. Thanks.
Thank you, Tyler. Next is Carrie Dugan.
Good evening, I'm Carrie Dugan. I live at 630 East Colorado Street in Davenport. And I just have a couple questions for you guys to ponder as you discuss this evening and into tomorrow. I'm wondering, why is it when we contacted the SBRC 6 months ago, they were very upfront about the 2-year limit, but you suddenly were unaware of it? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I'd like for you guys to ponder how that happened. Who is responsible for getting information? And how could we improve on getting the information that you guys need? My second question is, why is it that we are allowing people who voted to cause this problem to vote to cut our schools to fix the problem? It's unethical. We can't do this on the backs of our community. Why are we not looking to get these damages from the people who caused the damages? We don't have $13 million. People spent the $13 million willingly, knowingly, negligently, and illegally. And we need to sue them for those damages because they've damaged our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Next is Genevieve Rafferty.
Not made for short women. First of all, I'd like to correct you, sir. My name is Genevieve. The French would be Genevieve. I begin by quoting James Baldwin, who said, ignorance alike...
Genevieve, I need your address, too.
Oh, Fort Harrison Lofts, right over here, 1420 North Harrison Street, Davenport, Iowa, 52803.
Okay, thank you.
Ignorance allied with power is the greatest threat to justice. These two women are spot on. Art Tate has done this in 3 other states. Ripped our children off for $13 million, and he gets away with it again. Welcome to America. This has been going on since the 1970s. I mean, just look at the disparity between Davenport and Bettendorf schools. If you have the financial means, you can move to Bettendorf and get a better education. You all should resign. Have the grace, okay, to resign. Because you're just vacuous, self-interested people. I don't know why you're up there. You don't care about the future, you know? What, do you like to be on camera or something? And you, Mr. Schneckla, what the hell do you have in common with children of color or special needs? How would you know? You'd scare the shit out of me if I was a young black boy.
Excuse me.
No,
Please,
excuse
no,
me. I can
no,
be verbose.
no,
While you
please.
were dragging your feet and using your tactics to slow
Please,
us all up and
please.
schedule meetings so that people couldn't be here.
Genevieve.
We couldn't even find Genevieve.
Genevieve.
Get it straight, okay? Listen
Please,
and learn.
please watch your language.
What did I say wrong? Truth is not
No, I'm not talking
objectionable,
about
is it?
truth.
Oh, wait, it is. In
I'm
this.
talking about the use of language.
Can
And
you stop wasting time and stop so I can continue my...
no, I'm not going to allow you to use foul language in a public.
You've been using it since you started doing what you do.
Listen,
When you treat our children the way you are, that's the foulest language of all. How dare you? I'm done with you people, okay? Remember the word vacuous, self-serving. And on that note, we are not done with you. Believe me, I will haunt you, and I don't know how the hell you people sleep at night.
thank you, Genevieve.
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 Thank me.
I'm thanking you for your perspective and your comments.
I'll quit patronizing. Yeah.
Rodney Blackwell.
Rodney Blackwell, 2110 Aspen Drive. My son graduated North High School, dual enrollment. My daughter's in the program now. Rebuilding Davenport schools. You cannot rebuild schools with the same administration. Without diversity, some kids will lose. These are the same things I've been saying for the past 7 years. We have administrators who take our tax dollars and their kids go to other schools.
Yeah. Yes.
How fair is that? We have administrators that help opposing teams in football and basketball. How fair is that to our kids? At some time, we have to put some skin in the game. We as parents should have a bigger role in the future of our children, not administrators who live outside of our district. We now have to ask our kids to pay for decisions adults have made. When a team is playing bad, they do not fire the players. They fire the coach. Mr. President, I would ask you, how many laws have we broken? When a mother calls me at 11:30 at night in tears, her son graduates in June, he won't be able to read his diploma. How many laws have you broken? How many times did you co-sign for Dr. Tate and said Dr. Tate was the greatest administrator the school has ever seen? I would ask that you would follow Dr. Tate and resign effective immediately. There is no confidence in the people. You are an elected official. You should resign. Be a man, resign. We cannot rebuild our schools as long as you're the president. It was on your watch that this mess happened. And you had no problem going to the Times, endorsing everything Dr. Tate did, and said our kids need more money, and you were not able to educate the kids that you did have.
You failed.
You should allow me, as other administrators, to take my money and take my kids, maybe to North Scott, maybe to Bettendorf. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Next up is Chad Weipert.
Thanks, guys. Chad Weipert, 1540 West 48th Street, Davenport, Iowa. Have 2 kids, both at Wood. With the later start times, most of us work day shifts, so we have to drop our kids off. I know staffing, the principal says they don't get there until 8:45. Well, day shift starts 7, 8, or 9 o'clock. So if you work those hours, you have to drop your kids off in order to get them there. And then, at least at Wood, I don't know most of these people. You know, we've had a few fights, a couple bad ones that I've actually written about. I don't write. But with the decrease in staff, I'm just a little worried about the security. I know the first to go are going to be the people that are outside in the cold at 8:45 in the morning, and you know, I'm a little nervous about dropping my kids off there. In my line of work, you know, I have seen it. I've been the school resource officer at Pleasant Valley, so I have that perspective. And then I'm a Davenport parent, you know, and everybody that I work with at the sheriff's office, well, move to Eldridge, move to wherever, go to PV. I like Davenport. I like my neighborhood. I like my house. I like my neighbors. I don't want to do that. So I just ask that you consider everything. And I do echo, I don't fault you guys for where you live. You choose to live where you live. But I do echo his statements about having a little skin in the game, as far as maybe that makes you think twice before you make this decision, or how will this affect my kids if I make this cut? And that's all I want to say. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chad. And the last speaker that we have that has filled out a request form is Earlene Anderson. So I just want to note this, if any of you feel that you want to speak, please try and get to the back and fill out a request form. Otherwise, Earlene will be our last speaker tonight. Earlene?
Earlene Anderson, 305 East Lottie in Bluegrass. I am also the ASME representative for the 4 contracts here in the school district. I've heard lots of concerns tonight, and what I'm here to tell you is that we have a lot of good people working in this school district, and we're in the situation we're in no matter how we got here. But ASME and their membership is more than willing to work with the school district. We are working on some cost savings with the district, as well as a proposal outside the district that we're hoping to be able to get to you in the near future. Of course, as with any contract, we have to have a vote of our membership and make sure everybody understands. We just want you to know that we believe this is a partnership with everyone in the school district. We care about the kids, the custodians, the food service workers, the paraeducators, the secretaries. Every one of them care about the safety and the welfare of the children in this community. That's why they work in a school district. So we're here to work with you. It takes a village, truly, and it's going to take all of us to get through the next 2 to 5 years, regardless. I've been involved with other things where the state takes over, not good. It's better if it's ran in your community with people that want to understand the needs and diversities of the community. So just wanted to let you know that in the upcoming days and weeks, we will be trying to work with the district to help any way that we can, because we do care about the kids. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Arlene. And thank you to all of you that have participated in our open forum. Okay. As far as I can tell, there are no other requests. And so with that, we'll move on to the discussion item tonight, which is the budget. And I would ask our interim superintendent to lead that discussion, and then we'll have a discussion amongst the board.
So in an attempt to prepare for the December 11th SBRC hearing, we wanted to make sure that we went before them with a budget that shows an unspent balance, zero spent balance at the end of 2020. And at the last meeting that we had, we wanted the board had said they would like an explanation of the spending authority and the balance. So what you're going to see tonight is essentially the 5-year plan with the reductions that we can make accordioned up. I'll use those words, accordioned up into the first 2 years, the current year in 2020. But before we get into those line items, I'd asked Claudia Wood to kind of describe this front page for us, because it was a question that we had. Yes, please. No, you're fine right there. That's fine.
On the 2-year budget reduction plan that is up on the screen and that you've got, I wanted to show you information about our spending authority balance to better answer some of the questions that you had on Monday night. So the first line shows the spending authority balance, the negative $13,201,000.
Excuse me, Claudia, can you pull the microphone a little bit closer?
Sure, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
That first line shows the spending authority balance that we had at the end of last fiscal year, so June 30th of 18. The next line shows our estimated spending authority for this year. And the reason it's estimated is that can change based on the amount of miscellaneous revenue that we can report during the year, and what our special ed deficit or positive balance ends up being. There's variables throughout the year. But at this time, that's our estimated spending authority. From that $193 million, we have to subtract the negative $13 million that we began the year with. So the third line shows the total amount that is actually available to us this year for spending authority. That's the $180,153,000. Our estimated expenditures for this year are at $188 million, and we will be monitoring that very closely throughout the year, and be looking at some different reports that we can give you throughout the year to keep you up to date on that status. So based on that estimate of expenditures for this year, we would end this fiscal year, so June 30th of 19, we would end with a negative spending authority of just under $8 million. So it is still negative, but we are showing some improvement in that. That amount then is subtracted from the new spending authority that we would receive for fiscal 20. And again, that's an estimate. It's based on our enrollment from this October, estimated miscellaneous revenue, again, estimate of special ed, not knowing exactly what the state is going to give us, those types of things, estimating that at about $185 million. So subtracting the $7.9 million projected to end this current year, that would give us spending authority for fiscal 20 of $177 million. Right now, our estimated expenditures for fiscal '20, based on where we currently are, with projected salary and benefit increases and other operating increases, would give us an estimated expenditure of $189 million. And as you can see, that is greater than our spending authority for fiscal '20. That would leave us with a negative spending authority at June 30th of '20 of $12,709,000. So what we have worked on the last couple of days are projected reductions that we can make in fiscal '20, totaling $13,793,000. And if we can get all those put in place in the 1920 year, we could end June 30th of '20 with a spending authority balance of a positive a little over $1 million. And we believe that that's the action we need to take, the aggressive cuts that we need to make, ramp that up. I think TJ said accordion it up into this year and next year, mostly into next year, so that when we go to the SBRC in a couple of weeks, we can show that we are making every effort possible to have a positive balance in 2 years as they require.
Do the board members have any questions about this spending authority description? Claudia?
Anybody? Director DeSalvo?
Claudia, can you comment on what you estimated for supplemental state aid
1%,
for both years?
yes.
And per pupil spending increases? I'm assuming nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? And I apologize, Director Gosa and Director Mayfield. I want to try to make sure that I'm recognizing you during these questions, and so I will just ask, each time I'll ask for Director Mayfield. If you have something, let us know. If not, it'd be great if you say nothing, and then I'll go on to Director Gosa, so you won't talk over each other. Director Mayfield. Okay. Well, perhaps he's having problems with his mute. Director Gosa.
No, I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, thank you. Interim Superintendent.
So the second page of this,
Excuse me, Director Beck.
Could somebody comment on what types of things would fall into estimated miscellaneous revenue?
Those can be various local and federal and state grant funds that we receive, donations, revenue that we generate from service fees, the textbook rental fees, that type of thing.
Anything more from the board? All right, we'll continue.
so the second page of this details, in this next year, we do not have the authority to close a school or move into our big ticket items like move away from block scheduling, eliminate programs. Really what we have to do, and we've been talking about this, is to right-size our district. And so basically what we have control over now are the human capital inside of our building, inside of our district. And so each one of these areas is broken down. So the general reductions, there's a reduction of certified staff for $5.5 million. And certified staff, that's elementary K through 12 teachers, coaches, and not listed here, but is part of this line item, nurses, media specialists, any kind of staff that has a certification. The second bullet item is an insurance holiday. We conducted an actuary study, and we know how much we can use, and we plan on utilizing these insurance holidays. This next item, throughout this process, we are going to, the modified allowable growth budget is targeted at at-risk youth. And we are going to be realigning some general education positions into this budget because we believe that we can build a really strong program with the current people that we have. We believe it fits inside of there. The transportation, we're going to reduce 3 routes. Early retirement, we'll have more accurate numbers on this in mid-January. And our budget reductions to each one of our buildings are going to go down by 10%. And our energy efficiencies, we plan on $100,000. Are there any questions on that section before we move on?
Director Beck.
Excuse me, the staff there, I guess one of the things that we, and also in the modified allowable growth, first of all, just for myself and for the public, could you define modified allowable growth?
Yes, the modified allowable growth is a budget that is not the general budget, and it's dedicated toward helping our most at-risk youth that are at risk of dropping out and dropout prevention. And so that budget, an example of what we would like to create inside of their social workers and administrative salaries are very appropriate inside that line item because they are working with our students that are at risk, their potentials of dropping out, and our social workers fit really well inside of there. And through this process, we plan on building a program that would help prevent, that would help check and connect with our students. And so we see it as an opportunity to really build a program with our administrators surrounding our at-risk youth.
Okay, so basically, you're not getting rid of the programs, you're rearranging so that you can get rid of 9 administrative positions and 5 social workers. Okay, and then the same thing with the staff listed at the top there. It would be trying to maintain programs but eliminate staff where possible. Is that right? So I guess my number one concern is that we know that, for example, reading, the ability to read and read proficiently is linked pretty closely with risk of dropout and ultimate success. And so cutting reading coaches seems counter to what we're trying to do with dropout prevention, right? Does that make sense?
They're the farthest away from the classroom teacher, and so we tried to start there.
Okay.
With the mindset that's the mindset and those
Okay. So
positions.
trying to maintain as much in the classroom as
Absolutely.
possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sure I'll have other questions, but thank you.
Bill?
I think we should probably clarify. I heard you say eliminate 9 administrators and 5 social workers, and it's really should read realignment of 9 administrators and 5 social workers. That's important. And I think Dawn mentioned to me that that's a typo on this sheet where it says eliminated is a realignment.
Okay, so how would that differ then? How would we save money? If
Well,
we're not-
the positions and the programming that's going on inside of the modified allowable growth budget now, that would go away, and these positions would pick up the work of at-risk and dropout prevention along with the current job they have. They'd be doubling up on the work they're doing, basically.
I guess I'm still confused. We are going to double up 9 administrators?
There's, with the plan in this, to be developed would be that there'd be 1 associate principal was the idea at each of the high schools and middle schools who would specifically, along with the work they do, take on the work at risk and dropout for those identified kids that they have in each of their own buildings.
Okay, so are there currently 9 administrators dedicated to that program?
No.
No, okay. So what
And
positions
that would
are,
reduce $1.7 million to the modified allowable growth budget.
okay, so what positions would then be going away, I guess?
They would be things like, we have a GAP project that goes on at the elementary schools, graduation liaisons, attendance and diversion, success coaching, and school within a school. Those kinds of programs would be redesigned into the modified allowable growth budget, and it would be the responsibility.
So this 1.7 million is currently being spent out of a different budget? Is that
Yes.
what I understand?
Yes, out of the modified allowable growth budget. And these are allowable expenses from the general budget that could come out of that
That's what I
budget.
meant. Okay, so
Yep.
we're taking things that we are currently spending out of our general budget
Yep.
that would fall under this
Yes.
budget.
And meeting the requirements of that budget by designing a program to still meet the needs of those kids.
Okay, thank you.
We're funding administration by taking money away from Atlas.
Excuse me. This isn't an open forum right now. It's my responsibility to try to maintain.
you have, sir, that you're actually dealing with?
It's my responsibility to try to maintain the meeting in an appropriate manner. And I'm not
Because you can't do your job, so how do you work?
I'm not going to allow people in the audience to just burst out with that kind of language. So, do you want to burst right now?
No, Genevieve will not burst.
Okay, thank you very much for being respectful of the...
Well, remain that way.
Anyway, did you have more, Director Beck?
I just want to make sure that I fully understand this. We are currently running these programs right now, but we're using some general budget money to do it. And we're just going to move that into modified allowable growth. And by doing that, or in order to do that, we have to make sure they fit certain parameters.
So
So we're saving money in the general fund, but we're not actually getting rid of these programs at all.
So what we are funding out of modified allowable growth are positions.
Okay,
And the positions are not necessarily tied to a program. You're saying programs, and what we have inside of here, what they listed off are positions. And some of those positions at one point were dedicated towards a program. We see this as an opportunity to shape a program, to have social workers and our administrators really work diligently with our at-risk youth. Because right now, the way that we have operated with our modified allowable growth budget is we've bought positions, and really the modified allowable growth budget requires you to have a program. So I hear you saying programs, but really what we have are positions over time. Oh, we need this at this building, we need this at that building. And so while they're positions, we are trying to define a program moving forward. And yes, we will be moving some general fund that's allowable into this budget.
okay,
And be reducing people in positions.
okay. But we're not getting rid of any program, like, we're not getting rid of the concept of dropout prevention? and
No, we
things
are
like
not
that.
getting rid of the concept of dropout prevention. This budget is way bigger than that.
Okay. I guess I'm still a little bit confused. So would we be eliminating diversion coaches and putting their work under some of these people? then?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do we have evidence that, for example, diversion coaches or success, I'm forgetting the name of the position, are working?
See, that's what we want to accomplish out of here, because in here we would define a program. Here are the students that you work with. Is it working? Is it not working? And that's exactly what this budget is asking for.
So we don't actually even have data that those positions,
We collect data from those positions, but not in a programmatic way. And that's part of our next steps that we need to do. And we think we can accomplish that by operating this way.
So we don't actually know if they're accomplishing what we want them to accomplish?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Did you have more, Director
I
Beck?
have one more question. For the early retirement, do we have any estimate? I know we'll know later on when people turn in their paperwork, but based on previous,
The estimate that's in there is based on previously what we've done. Once paperwork's turned in, so we won't have hard numbers when we go to the SBRC in a couple of weeks.
Right.
But by the time we return to the SBRC in March, we should have a much better idea, much closer actual number, because early retirement paperwork has to be turned in by early January.
but we're kind of assuming it's going to be similar to other times we've done this,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Any other comments or questions, Director Hayes?
Can you help me with transportation? Right now, we use the city bus and other modes of transportation for reducing routes. What's the plan of action for that?
So we looked at our inside of our budget and working with Durham, we believe that this transportation with the 3 routes, we are currently operating things that are inside of walk zones and 2 different programs like Keystone and Mid-City that we can capture those routes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Director Mayfield, anything? Director Gosa?
Yes, I had a couple questions.
Go ahead.
I guess I'll go with the transportation first, the 200,000. I thought changing the bell times was supposed to save like 300,000. And that was supposed to eliminate some routes doing that, correct?
Yes, and some of those are savings we're realizing in this current fiscal year. This item of the 200,000 reducing 3 routes is proposed for next year, for fiscal '20. So we've made adjustments both this year and are planning on making more next year.
Okay, how many routes did get eliminated this year by changing the bell times?
Mike Maloney's indicating 4.
Okay, so then we'll be down 7 routes, and how many do we actually have?
We've reduced 14 in the last 3 years, according to Mike. I don't know the total number of routes we currently run.
Okay. And then my other question is the certified staff, the reductions there, is that the early retirement is separate than that, or would, like, if some of them retire, does that get included into that, or it's separate?
The early retirement does not include positions that would end up not being replaced. Those would count as the certified staff reductions. The early retirement savings amount is calculated based on those positions that, those retirees who do get replaced, being replaced by someone at a lower pay rate.
Okay. And then I guess I'm reading that right. It says certified staff at 83 positions. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And now is that does that include, like, because I don't like to see cuts in the classroom where it directly affects the kids. Is that teachers and pairs that are in the rooms with our students?
That number of 83 involves across K-12, teachers, math coaches, reading coaches, and it could involve, as TJ mentioned earlier, it could involve other certified staff like media specialists, counselors, nurses, anybody who's certified. If the reduction can be made, that would be one of the 83 reductions that would be made across the board. Not paraeducators, though, I heard you say that in this line.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, it's not, okay. I guess myself, I hate to see cuts in the building that are going to directly affect the kids, because these people have a relationship with our students. The way that our district is so diverse, you need to be able to have those relationships with the students to, I guess, be able to better teach them so they're getting more out of their education and they're wanting to be at school more. So I guess that's the hardest one for me, seeing that.
Okay, thank you. Director Hayes.
I guess going back to that a little bit, my question here is, I understand what you said about the modified allowable growth, but for the frontline people, why are we cutting and realigning for modified?
We believe that we can accomplish the same program under this model.
Okay. So explain it. I know exactly what you said about that, but please explain that to me. I want to walk away clear with this. All the programs will remain the same. The administrators will just be doing these jobs?
So we have positions, and we have attendance positions, we have just different positions inside of here. And there's also programs like the GAP program, and there's line items inside the modified allowable growth that we're going to sweep. We're going to keep as many of the programs that we have inside of this budget as possible. Sweep a lot of the items that are not people, like the GAP program, which is it's after-school tutoring program. And we're going to realign these items that are allowable inside of our general budget into this, and cut as much of the dollars inside of that budget.
Any other discussion? Director Beck.
So following up from that, I just want to make sure the modified allowable growth budget is not part of what we have to cut.
It is not general fund, exactly.
Okay.
The categorical funds.
Okay.
And this is a recent change that allows these to happen. Otherwise, we probably would have done it sooner.
That was going to be my other question. And
Actually, it's in the last couple of months.
okay. That answers that question. And I guess I just want to reiterate or back up what Director Gosa said. You know, it concerns me when we're cutting teachers, the kids, the people on the front lines. You know, I have kids in the schools. We all have kids in the schools on the board here, and that to me is the most important part of what we do, is making sure that those relationships stand and that we keep as many people in the classroom as we can. So if we can find ways to cut outside, that's definitely preferable.
Any other discussion on this sheet? Director Potts.
We're looking at reducing 83 certified staff. What is our gross number of certified staff? How many certified staff members do you have?
I would say probably close to 1,200.
1,200? Okay. And what is our average turnover? In other words, how many people a year do we hire? Because of retirements, people moving, whatever.
Last 3 years, 113 new teachers.
Average.
The last 3 years, we've averaged 113 new teachers.
And in the teacher contract, there's a recall procedure for people that have been reduced or laid off. Is that not correct? So I would say, though nobody wants to reduce the number of teachers that we have. Every one of these 83 people is a face. It's a person. And if you had not had to deliver a pink slip, you really don't know what that's like. I had to do that. And it was like you were the Grim Reaper walking down the hallway. You know, and then the doors that had the ram's blood over it, you got to walk past. It's not fun. But the saving grace is that the vast majority of these people will probably then wind up being recalled due to the natural attrition and turnover in the district. Probably not all of them, but most of them will be recalled. That was my experience when I had to deliver pink slips. But it still means a net reduction of 83 teachers in the classroom. And I don't know, our enrollment has declined and declined and declined, and we haven't really reduced teachers. It's a very uncomfortable position to be in. We all know that the smaller the class size, the more effective that classroom sometimes operates. But you can't pay people on good intentions. We're screwed. That's my educational term for it. We're screwed.
Thank you, Director Potts. Hang on just a second. Director DeSalvo, did you have something?
So TJ, when you described this to us, you talked about kind of going from the outside in, like trying to shelter those teachers that are frontline face-to-face and trying to come in with other positions, like you said, the reading coaches, which I struggle with, but class sizes, all of these things. Can you describe that in a little more detail of how that would be looked at? And then while you do that, I'm looking at where Director Potts was going, and that was going to be one of my questions. So every year we know we have a turnover. We lose about 100 and 120 staff every year with retirement, some that don't come back, some that move. So I would assume that this perhaps could work where we may not have to pink slip. We could not fill positions. That's not a good place to be in either. But is that your intention of getting to this 7% staff reduction is how I calculated it? Is that what you're thinking?
So that's exactly our hopes, and Mr. Potts said it perfectly. When you look at the coaches that are inside of this and the other certified positions, when we brought on our reading coaches and our math coaches, that was before our TLCS system was in place. And our TLCS system is there to really support our teachers inside of our buildings. And so we believe that our teachers will still have a level of support that's sufficient through our TLCS program. And these positions that are, yes, when we move through this, which we haven't had to do in a very long time, we hope that we bring back all of our staff, but we can't guarantee that with the level of cuts that we have to make by the end of 2020. But that is our ultimate goal. And if we can do this through attrition, we're absolutely going to do that. That is our 100% goal.
I would just add on to that, we hate to see anybody leave the district in attrition, but then that could also result in larger class sizes. We don't know what that'll be because we don't know what our enrollment will be next year, but that is one of the another repercussion that could be, yeah, we don't have to pink slip anybody, but now we're looking at increases in the size of our classes. Okay, thank you.
Director Beck.
I have two other questions. The first one is on the second grouping there, the classified reductions. It says we're going to be able to save $300,000 by reducing general education dollars that are spent in the special education office. Why are... Oh, he said this page. I'm sorry. I thought...
Section by section.
Go
ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Why are we spending that way anyway? Don't we have a special education budget that's supposed to be spent on special education stuff? I'm sorry, I thought you said this page. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he stopped because I have a ton of questions there too.
So how about I go through the
Okay, go
next
ahead.
section?
Yeah.
So we have para-educators and
Actually, my
sure.
other question was about the first section. Sorry. I know how important extracurricular activities are to our schools and our students, but are we cutting any money from, say, athletic directors, combining things, coaches, things like that, things that are not in the classroom? And when I say coaches, I mean like sports coaches, things like that.
So right now, we have a hiring freeze on in our district, and one of the things that I've asked our associate superintendents to do is to be comparative to other districts, if we are inflated anywhere in our athletic programs and our music programs, they need to evaluate that immediately and capture those savings now. So if we have an 8th grade coach and 3 assistants, that's not right size. But if we have an 8th grade coach, that's pretty appropriate for a middle school. The next phase of the budget cuts are going to have to be programs and schools and just the other things that are on there. So those are the discussions those are the next layer of really difficult discussions that we have to have. And so that will be next. On the classified reductions, we have paraeducation and non-bargaining staff, clerical staff, and special ed office gen ed. And that line item in the special education side, there is a certain percentage of the general ed budget that's allowed to be budgeted for in the special ed department. And the purpose of that would be to pay for administration, clerical staff, and other items like that. And so in reviewing of this, we can reduce that budget by that amount.
So it's not on actual special education teachers?
Absolutely. It is not,
Okay.
sorry.
Director DeSalvo.
How many FTEs are in each of these categories?
So the salary ranges between the paraeducators and non-bargaining varies. Claudia, did you have, we had a number, but it was in between 20 to 40 depending upon the range in the salaries of the non-bargaining positions.
Okay.
The clerical are secretaries. And Rob, what was I think that's 5 FTE in that second category, I do believe. 20 to 40.
Any other discussion on this section? Director Mayfield?
No, I'm also there for a moment, so I'm really just getting back. So I prefer to just listen for a moment here. Did you hear me?
Yes, we heard you. Thank you. Director Gosa?
No, not this time.
Okay, we'll continue with the next section.
The next section is the administrative services, and that is anything included in this building, operations, and administrators. And we wanted to break this down to give you an idea, and these are basically every one of the departments in the Achievement Service Center and the reductions that will happen inside of each one of those. So the Business Service Center, the Human Resource Center, Learning Information Systems, Curriculum Department, Learning Supports, and these are reduction in personnel and discretionary funds. Each one of these departments has a budget that allows them to, hire substitute teachers, purchase materials, things like that. And so that's what the discretionary funds means. Learning Supports, the Marketing Department, Operations, and the 3 administrative cuts. These numbers, if we can actualize more savings in different areas, because one of the things that the SBRC told us is that, well, you made great savings over here, but then this one went up in a disproportionate amount. So if we can actualize savings in one of these where we weren't able to in another, we're going to have to do that. And so those are our administrative service reductions. Questions in that category?
Director DeSalvo.
Again, how many FTEs are we looking at?
This depends upon
On that
yes.
shift.
So in these areas we have anywhere from secretaries to specialists to budgeted items that might not be there anymore, and so it's hard to put an FTE to these positions because one of the common misconceptions about central office is that there's nothing but administrators here. But there are clerical staff, there are specialists, there are liaisons, there are different layers of salaries inside of the central office.
So as we proceed with getting this together, we're going to have to go back to the SBRC and show very specific what we did. And they are going to want to know, so this is going to be incredible tracking of every last position, salary, everything to the penny will have to be tracked. So, this is pretty high level, and I understand it's going to be fluid, but that's very important because I think that was one of the things they were looking from us is, show us what you've done. And that's going to be critical. So, thank you.
Anything else on this, Director Potts?
I'm looking at this reduction in the marketing department, and it seems to me that the root of all of our problems is declining enrollment. Because every kid that we enroll in the district represents a significant sum of state aid. And marketing is recruitment. We need to recruit students. We need to be out there on social media. We need to be browbeating realtors. We need to be visible, available, and advertising those programs and achievements in this district that we all are so proud of. I don't know, it just seems to me like it would be like Boeing cutting research and development, and then they're selling biplanes. I just think we need to, I would like to take a harder look at marketing and see if we can't get some professionals to develop a true marketing plan for the district, targeting students. Because if we don't stop the bleeding of students, we'll be doing this again and again and again and again. And we can all resign, and everybody else can get elected to the board, and you're going to have to do this again and again and again.
Is there any more discussion on this section? Director Mayfield?
Well, I have to agree with Mr. Potts. I think, as I've said so many times, I've heard this discussion before. And my only reason not focusing on the future right now is because of what we have to deal with immediately. But I do agree that if we don't do anything, I don't care what board it is, what 7 people it is, as it has been in the past, they'll be right back at this juncture 2 years, 5 years from now. We're not solving the problem, as we all know. We're putting it off, and we got to wish upon a star, and it's not going to fix itself. But, you know, that is a discussion that we got to have in the near future. What we need to focus on, that's what we're doing, is what to do about the situation we're in right now. So what has to go, what has to stay, and how can we do it with less effect, not only on our students, who are a large part of our community, but the people themselves that are there, that have children, that have to operate in this environment every single day. So I don't have the suggestion to solve the problem, but if we're not working on the problem, we're bound to repeat this all over again. So as we go along and look for that immediate fix, I'm glad Dr. Potts, you became a doctor now. I'm glad that he has said something about what I've been reiterating over and over and over. We got to fix the issue. The issue is losing students. And what are we really going to do to seriously mend that? Advertising is part, but you got to produce the product. And that means from the bottom to the top. That's where the real reputation comes from. So I'll stop at that and listen a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mayfield. Director Gosa?
Yes, I do have a couple things. First off, Interim Superintendent Snackloff, you had said about it has to be kind of close to even on the cuts you take out of each department or whatever. Are these reductions to each one of these pretty close to each other, or is one more than the other?
I think they're pretty close. We might see more in other departments. And so they're pretty close.
Okay, thank you. My other thing, and I probably have preached this for a while now, I definitely would like to see more administrative cuts versus teachers in the classroom. I get it. But again, those are the ones that are in there with our students and everything else. And I'm not saying that the administrative part isn't making things happen, but I think that would less affect the students going that route. I guess I would like to see some more coming out of that, and a little less teachers.
All right, thank you, Director Gosa. We'll move on to the last item on the page, discretionary funds.
So these are our discretionary funds that we believe that can come off. When Jefferson Elementary moved from an Edison school back, they were allotted money, and each year that money is being whittled away. And this is yet another pull from that. It's an additional general fund money that goes to Jefferson above and beyond what they get due to the fact that they've transitioned off of Edison. And Edison was a partnership with a charter organization, and they came in, and it cost an extraordinary amount of money to partner with them. and they had layered in multiple resources. And when we decided not to go with the Edison, I think, charter anymore, we didn't feel, the administration at the time did not feel that they could just pull all those resources away. And so they've been slowly pulling back on those resources. And so this is yet another pull at those resources, a reduction in resources from Jefferson. And then we have graduation liaison, Keystone. These are all just a reduction in expense budget and attendance coaches. These positions, that graduation liaison, Keystone, they have budgets, and these are no longer. We can sustain whatever they need out of a different budget.
Excuse me. This is not an open forum. Excuse me, Rodney. Rodney, I appreciate the passion that you have, but I'm asking, please, this is a board discussion. We had an open forum earlier for opportunity to express these things. If you want to speak after the meeting, we can do that, but this is not a discussion between, this is a board discussion. We're trying to get some legitimate work done, and we are not going to be having discussion with members of the audience during this board meeting. Thank you, and thank you for your passion. Director DeSalvo.
So interim Superintendent Schneckloff, you said these were like discretionary funds. So these aren't people. These are budgets that were allowed in each of these places that will be reduced, and they were able to use these funds on anything at their discretion. So those will go away. Are there any more of these type of discretionary funds that we could look at? Other areas? I don't know.
Yes, and we are continuing to dig for that, and that's an excellent question. And those are the kinds of things that we are asking all of our administrators to do. We're asking all of our buildings to do, all of our departments to do. If we're paying for furniture out of a building budget, we need to closely evaluate that, because there's another fund that can do that. We're really trying to turn over all the rocks to find, and we will continue to do that. We know that the SBRC is going to ask us to come back in March. And in between now and then, we are going to continue to dig and search and claw. So,
Director Beck.
I have a question.
Okay, Director Mayfield.
I heard about discretionary funds, or should I say funds that we are no longer paying the organization that was running Jefferson. So my first question is, how much savings do we have there, and what impact has that had on that program there academically? Are we better for it or worse? You know, nothing stays the same. So without that program, are we still holding at least at that level? Are we, and I'm talking academically as far as the kids are concerned. That's what this is really all about, the kids and their learning. So what impact is withdrawing that program has, and at the same time, because I know at that time we thought we could do it better and less expensive. Are we able to hold up to that? Or, again, academically, we've not really improved it, and we got those funds. And if we have those funds that we're saving from it, what are we doing with them? Complex question, but there's 3 or 4 in there somewhere.
are you asking for the effectiveness of the Edison project versus how it is today? Is that your question?
Well, that is just part of it. There's funding that went into that is no longer there, I assume, that we've taken most of it out of it. How has it affected that program? I mean, are we better for it or worse for it? Because those funds aren't there, that program isn't there. Not to criticize the program, but it is all about effectiveness. And we want every dollar to count. So as a board member, I have no idea whether we're being more effective or not. Maybe this is not the time. But when we start talking about the dynamics of the budget, we want to know what we're getting for each penny, whether it's working or not, whether it's not working, what damage we're doing or not doing. So that's why I asked that question that way. I know it can't be summed up in a few moments that we have right now, but it is something that we have to look at as to how effective we're being with the dollars that we've spent and have spent. So the question was, maybe I should restate it. Those monies that came out of that program, how are they being used? And have we kept up at least to where we're at academically? That may be the hard part because you almost have to sit down and evaluate it. But at least part of that question we know. What has happened to the funds that were there?
I'll take a stab at that, Director Mayfield. The dollars that were being spent on the Edison project, at the time, the superintendent, as TJ mentioned, didn't want to take those dollars and all of the supports away from that school. So we created what was called a wraparound program. And most recently, we've been working very closely with the Area Education Agency, and we've actually modeled this wraparound program because of the success at Jefferson. We've taken it into Monroe Elementary School, we added Buchanan Elementary School, and most recently, they've started to wrap around, if you will, additional supports to Williams Middle School. Those dollars that were being spent have gradually been pulled back at a tune of about $50,000 a year. This is like a 3-year pullback in this budget for 150. And with these dollars, they were hiring additional coaches, supports, paraeducators, interventionists, a variety of things have worked. And Jefferson Elementary School is one of the few elementary schools where we've seen some success. And I'd be happy to put together some kind of a report at some point if you want to see how they did with this wraparound program. But the successes were such that we're modeling it at 2 other elementary schools and into a middle school this year. And the whole idea was to take district supports and everybody wrap themselves around that school and provide them whatever they needed to move forward. And a lot of it, in Jefferson's case, were dollars for personnel, for supports. Everything from reading coaches to interventionists. I'm trying to think what all was in there. A lot of extra people, a lot of extra supports was primarily what she had. She'll be devastated by this because this was very important to them and the monies that they were using. So like everything in this budget, it's going to be greatly missed at Jefferson, that $150,000. But I'd be happy to give you a report at some time about some of the successes they've been able to take on by putting this, what we call a wraparound program, in place of Edison at Jefferson.
Okay, well, I hope it's something that the board itself would like to see. Just to be informed as to what we're doing and how we're doing it. So thanks for presenting that. And the opportunity to see the report.
Director Beck.
And I just want to make sure I understand, because if we're taking money from this wraparound project, we're directly impacting students. What you're saying is we actually are supporting it from within the schools, not through the Edison project, is that correct? So we're doing the project, we're doing the work, we still have these wraparound projects, we're expanding it to other schools because we know it works, but we're just not paying for it from this Edison project. Okay, because I was going to ask, if it's working, why would we cut it?
The Edison project, and I do believe it was a charter organization. And the amount of money we were spending to do it, we were not getting the results, and the school was sliding backwards. So the results were not there from that project for the money, for the value. So we discontinued those services and left some of the services there and began a wraparound plan. And I believe at the time we were required to through No Child Left Behind. It was part of the low-performing school citations. And most recently, we've been utilizing the AEA to really help bring best practices to those buildings. They attach a person to each one of these wraparound buildings to help the administrator lead those charges. And most of those buildings are Title I buildings, and so they have Title I funds to help support those initiatives as well.
Sorry, one last question. As I look at this second sheet at the bottom, the total projected reductions is 13.7 or 13.8 million approximately. So this is over 2 years then, all of the things listed on this page?
This is essentially a one-year plan,
Okay,
because of the savings that we said we were going to get in this year and then next year. So it's a 2-year plan that started this year.
so for example, the 83 certified staff, some of those are this year, some of those would be next year.
The majority of them will be next year because
Okay.
we already have these staff members on the books.
Okay,
Now, we are, through our hiring freeze, trying to capture as many staff members as we can.
Any other discussion on this issue? Director Gosa, did you get a chance to participate?
Yes.
Okay. I just have one question on the Jefferson discretionary. Because that program was several years back. And I'm just curious if this amount of money is available for us to take out of that wraparound and the additional services that are being provided, how much is left in that particular program or
Yeah.
service or whatever you want to call
There's
it?
$300,000 out of the general budget that are being allocated to this wraparound plan right now. So we are pulling out 150,000 of that in this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this item? All right, thank you. You have more? What about all this? You don't want to talk about that? So are you done with the presentation of this information for the 2-year budget reduction plan?
Yes.
Okay. I want to open it up to the board then. Remember that we have an obligation to the SBRC, and I've heard tonight that a lot of the board members have specific interests in we shouldn't cut this, we shouldn't cut that, things like that. And what the SBRC, I believe, is looking for, and I would ask other board members that have participated in the SBRC to express their perspective on what the SBRC is looking for from the board. So the administration has been trying to figure out what the SBRC is looking for. I believe, as we mentioned the other day, that we have a pretty good handle on what they're looking for, and I believe it is this kind of relatively aggressive budget reduction plan. There's also a time limit, and I'm going to ask for a consensus this evening. Can the board support this? And if the board cannot support this on a consensus, I still will ask for a vote tomorrow. And the SBRC is going to be asking, where is the board with respect to this plan? So before I open it up for discussion, does anybody else want to make comments on what the SBRC is looking for? Director Hayes.
From going to the SBRC meeting in October, it's clear that they're looking for radical cuts. We were looking at these cuts over a 5-year period to find out that we were misunderstood. It was over a 2-year period. So they're looking for us to have a positive balance within 2 years. And they were very serious about it and even spoke on that we need to be unified in these votes or for what we decided to cut, because we were not wanting to cut schools, so many large ticket items that we were not wanting to, and wanting to work with the community, but they pretty much made it clear, you need to cut, and you need to cut fast.
Okay, thank you. Any other notes on that particular issue? If not, I want to open it up and see where the board members are. Do you intend to support this? And the way that this would be presented is in the kind of the fashion of the 2020 plans that have been submitted. And it isn't that we have to do exactly what's on here. In the future, there's a modification and we say, well, we have to modify this. That's okay, but we better have something to replace it. We cannot just say, we decided we made a big mistake. So I want to have a little bit of discussion here. Director DeSalvo.
President Johansson, I would like to share a project that I've been working on related to everything that we talked about tonight. Back in September, this board approved that we bring in a consultant. He likes to call himself an auditor and an advisor. Cost us no money. The gentleman is doing it on his own time. He's auditing administration, people in this building. He's looking at expenditures. He's looking at staff. He's been doing this since October. So the plan that he has proposed, multiple items, but the first 2 pilot items that he is looking at already and has implied there will be significant savings in what he's finding. That is the HR process and what we use to hire staff and purchasing. There will be significant changes in those processes that will result in significant savings. This week, he has decided to take that even more extreme with knowing what we are facing now with having to cut $13 million from our budget in a year and a half. So he has taken it further, and he will be looking at multiple departments, many of which we talked about today, with the expectation of budget reductions, staff reductions, changes in processes to make us run more efficient. So I wanted to make sure that this board understood the work that Mr. Erickson is doing for us. He is working very swiftly now that he realizes the urgency, and I believe that he will find significant savings in what he's doing for us. So I hope that that can help perhaps take some of these items off of this plan eventually, as this plan will be fluid, and if we can see savings within administration with his work, hopefully that could make some changes there. I don't have any estimates at this time, but his work is ongoing and has become much more aggressive in the last week.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Director DeSalvo.
So looking at this plan tonight, looking at it today, when we received it about 1:15 today, took some time to study it, and we've been looking at numbers, and we've been looking at staff, and we've been looking at making heart-wrenching decisions. None of this is easy. If any of you think we take this lightly, you're horribly mistaken. These are students. These are going to infect our students, which is the first thing that bothers me. The next thing is our staff and our community. But unfortunately, we have been left with a situation that we have to try to correct. And it is not going to be easy to make these corrections. And I ask that those that are here tonight help support us in these efforts. They're not easy. We don't want to do them either, but at this point, we have no choice. If you want the state to come in and take over this district, talk about people that have no idea of what happens in our community. All of us live here. We have students. We have a principal that's on our board that understands what happens in our buildings every day. And we are making our decisions based on that. I don't want to have to go down this path, but I don't believe at this point we have a choice. If we don't do it, someone else will come in and do it for us, and it could be even worse, which could mean multiple school closings and other things. So we're doing the best we can tonight. And always, I don't like what I have to do, but unfortunately, I will have to support this because we have to come with a plan. We have to support that plan. We have to be unified, and we have to make a difference. And we will make a difference. We will come out of this better. And there are so many other good things that happen every single day in our district. We have so many successful stories from our students. We have staff that are amazing, and they come to work every day out of the goodness of their heart, and they take care of our students, and that's all we can ask for. So I would hope that we could work together through these very difficult times and come out of this a solid district, moving toward the future, looking toward the future, and making things better. It's very difficult right now, but these are things that we have to do. And unfortunately, I will have to support this. But I will ask every step along the way, updates. I want to know month by month what we've done, as we get into these plans. And I want monthly budgets, monthly income and balance sheets. So we know every moment where we're at and what we've done, so that we're not faced with any kind of surprises. So that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Director Beck?
I second a lot of what Director DeSalvo said. I have kids in the district. This is very hard on me. I've been on the board for 1 year. This is not what was happening when I ran for office, but I ran for office planning to make hard decisions, and now I'm being asked to make hard decisions, and so I'm going to have to make hard decisions, and I know not everybody's going to like it. I don't like voting for this or supporting this, but I know it must be done at this point. I also wanted to say that I appreciate the Ask Me units being willing to work with us as well. I think if we work together, we can come out a stronger district. And so I will support this plan, but I look forward to avoiding changes that directly affect the classroom as much as possible. And I will continue to push for consolidation or other plans that displace the least number of students possible and maintain our communities and our neighborhood schools as much as possible.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Director Mayfield or Director Gosa, do you have anything?
Yes. I think all of our feelings are about the same when it comes to what we have to do to keep our schools operating. I know what we have to do now. I don't agree with it, but we have to deal with this immediately. What I'm very concerned about is what it's going to do to us in the future. When we talk about cutting programs, when we talk about consolidating schools, we're talking about somebody being left out. And I hate to say it, the people that usually are getting left out are those that do not have the spokesperson in the community to speak up for them. And you know what that means? That means more closing of central schools. When I say central, I'm talking about Central City. More building of schools to the north, which in itself is not a problem, except you need people to fill them. And in order to fill them, you got to close some. And of course, I know we're not going to build new schools to the south when those that want to the north. And we got old schools down here, but they work for the people who live here. That's the most important aspect. Everybody wants a neighborhood school. If there is no schools, then people move out of those areas. And we see that happening. So as to what comes first, the chicken or the egg, I think they both have a certain same effect. because as we do this to our schools, and I'm not talking about closing schools at this time, but our programs can have that effect. When we start combining schools and taking kids out of one area and moving them all to another, eventually it affects that neighborhood and that school. So I know what we have to deal with now, but believe me, I'm just as concerned and will be watching for the future, because future is what it is with the kids. And if they don't have what they need, there will be, as there has to be no JV, eventually there will be no SMART, eventually there will be no Sudlow. And those are all, the elementary schools have already done it. They impact and will impact more Central. And so there's those out there that says we'd never do it and put $100 million into it. But there's those that say after we put $15 million in the JV, we'd never close that, and we did. So I just want to keep the future in mind, even though we have this we have to deal with now. So I do think we have to, our backs are against the wall, and we have to come up with a plan. No matter what it is, we're not all going to like it. We're in that situation right now. I don't like the plan, but until somebody can come up with something better, I like the idea of becoming more attractive and advertising. But all of those ideals take time that we don't have. We've been dealing with this now for a couple of years, and now it's come to the point where it's been shoved down the hill for, this didn't happen in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. This has been going on a long time, but we're the ones that are being held responsible for it. The board as it is, the community as it is, and most importantly, our students. So hopefully, this is really the beginning of solving our problem, which is getting more students in our schools. Anything else is just going to delay it down the street if we're not getting more students. So thank you, and to make it clear, I will probably vote for the plan, for lack of a better. Did you understand?
Yes, I put it down as probably. Thank you very much, Director Mayfield. Director Gosa, are you with us?
Yes. I do. It definitely sucks. I understand you got to make cuts. I've already voiced my opinion on what I think. And this, either way the vote goes, this is a revolving plan, so it can change all the time, because I definitely look forward to what Mr. Erickson finds on ways we can make cuts as well, and those can get implemented in there to take out some of the other things.
Is that it?
Yes.
So how would I characterize your support for the plan as it currently exists?
As it exists, as long as it's ever changing, I will support it.
All right, thank you. I'm looking for a little bit more input from those that haven't participated. Director Potts.
I'm with Dr. Mayfield.
I'm laughing at the doctor part. Go ahead.
Looks like you're up, Director Hayes.
Okay, I'm not happy with the plan at all. However, I do understand that it's ever-changing, and with the information from Mr. Erickson, then that may change the teacher situation. Not happy at all with any changes within the classroom, but I'm guess I'm prayerful that that portion of it will change over this next year. And maybe we'll find substantial savings to save some of those positions. But as is, I can support it because I have nothing else to match it.
Okay, thank you. And I want to say that, you know, we've asked an awful lot of a lot of people in preparing all this information. I think that putting this together, and even just the clarification of what exactly is the SBRC looking for, is something that was challenging. It took quite a bit of time because there isn't just one person that represents the SBRC. And so we had to interpret between all these different people what exactly are they probably going to like us to present. And I think that we have a pretty good idea, and I think that this plan exemplifies what they're looking for. I too appreciate AFSCME coming tonight. I know that they've been looking at some of the ways that they might be able to participate, and I think that as organizations and various people within our district and within our community look for ways to help, I think we're going to find a lot of significant things that we can do. Mr. Erickson was mentioned a couple of times, and I wish I could take an hour and explain the philosophy that he's using to approach what he's doing. But I think that almost everybody would appreciate it. It really does highlight what's important with respect to what's going on with the students. And he is looking mostly at how do we increase efficiency and effectiveness within the administration. And by doing that, the administration can do things, and just to give you out there an idea, even I get probably 50 contracts to sign after every regular meeting. And that's something that we think we can do electronically instead of by paper. Same thing, the administration right now pushes a lot of paper because that's the way they've done it. It's just an example, but when you start thinking about some of those things, how much time does it take? It's a lot of time. So I believe that there will be significant areas that can be addressed there. With respect to what we're going to do, so tomorrow morning, I'm going to express that there's a consensus of the board to support the plan that was presented tonight. It will not be that the board voted. I do plan to have a vote tomorrow at 3:45 to support this plan to the SBRC. We do have some contacts that we will be contacting first thing in the morning to express that the board is supportive of this approach. And so we'll take care of that. We'll have another meeting tomorrow, and everybody out there, that will be a special open meeting. I probably, depending on how the SBRC requires the information, I think they require it by 4 o'clock. And so I may be pushing quite a bit to move forward. I won't have a lot of time for discussion, but if there are people that want to speak, I may allow like an open forum after the meeting. I think with that, unless there's any additional discussion, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Is everybody cool? Okay. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Motion carries. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.